Hi, I'm Lauren Edmonds. I'm the founder and owner of a school that supports children with learning delays. I'm hoping this space gives you something to think about. So I'm talking to Ivana today, and she is the founder of what I think is a remarkable idea, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Okay, I founded a company called Nonsense, which is a play on the word nonsense. I think I've always heard people say everything is nonsense. It's such an Indian thing to say. And naan is a play on words for the naan bread. And this is a pop-up restaurant. I was like, this is a controversial, different, unique concept. Almost nonsense.
So Des messages me and says you're looking for a network to market your business, and that's how we chat to start off with, and then you join the meeting. You hear my 60 seconds. You were brilliant in your 60 seconds, by the way. You pitched your business perfectly. And afterwards we spoke because this whole idea of ADHD came up. You kind of picked up on it, and then we were talking and it just sort of became the conversation. So I wanted to say that when we met each other, I felt like we immediately connected over the energy and enthusiasm that comes with that kind of way of thinking, that divergent way of thinking. I looked for the right word to describe how I would describe how you and I are positioning this ADHD. And the word supernova came up. I wanted to use another word, and I got the word wrong, and then supernova came up. Supernova is a powerful and luminous explosion of a star.
Okay.
So when we met and chatted briefly earlier this week, we talked about thinking in a web. Mm-hmm. So our conversations have made me look for better words for divergent thinking.
Okay.
And this idea of ADHD. A lot of talk is going on around, because ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. I think you have the same feeling as I do. It's not a disorder.
No, absolutely not.
I feel like I'm ADHD, but I haven't sought a diagnosis.
So my GP originally told me, hey, you look like you have ADHD. And like, she was confident. And then I asked her whether I should get a formal diagnosis. And she said it wasn't necessary because almost anybody would pass an ADHD test.
If you look for the symptoms, you'll find them.
If you ask them all the right questions, almost everyone has some level of the symptoms that we're looking for, because it is a spectrum.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So she said that, she's looking at me and I have all the symptoms of ADHD. I also spoke to a psychologist who was, I guess she specializes in all of this, and she confirmed it, but I didn't take an official test. She also told me that there's no point in taking an official test. Almost anyone will pass that test.
Very true, very true.
So, yeah.
When you heard it the first time and the second time, did it resonate with you?
I was shocked, actually, when I was told that I have ADHD, because, it was only 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, that I found out. Mm-hmm. And I lived my entire life thinking I was normal, but obviously not fitting in with the normal
sort of status quo, yes. Everybody else around you, the norms, what's expected of you.
Yes. It was always just struggling to fit in with the status, with the norms. Mm-hmm. But I never knew I had ADHD. I also had I didn't understand ADHD.
Okay.
Properly. So I always thought it was, the kid jumping from one sofa to another. I thought it was that stereotype of ADHD. Yes. And I'm like, I'm not that.
And it's always been little boys?
Yes.
It's like, but I'm a girl and I'm not a little girl. Like, how could it be me?
Yeah. And then when I did my research in ADHD, and you see the impulsivity and you see the hyperactivity, the hyperfocus, sometimes you just zone out on conversations. And then I'm like, hold on, I did not understand ADHD. Mm-hmm. And now I have a better understanding of it. And I tend to see when other people have ADHD because it's quite obvious. Right?
It is a bit, right?
It's very obvious. So my own psychologist has ADHD, and I said to her straight out, I'm like, you have ADHD, right? And she was like, how can you just see it? I think once you know what ADHD looks like, what the symptoms are, you're able to actually pick it up in other people. And I'm also attracted to the energy of people who have ADHD. It's kind of infectious.
Yes. It's a different way of existing in the world.
Yes.
Not a wrong way. And that's why this idea of it being a disability doesn't make sense. It's only a disability when you try to force it out of somebody.
Yeah.
How do you relate your understanding of ADHD now to how you were at school?
So when I was in school, I did accounting, I did economics, I tried to fit in the box, which clearly doesn't work for me.
But you were good at accounting and economics.
Yes. But I was always drawn towards the more creative things in life. I come from a creative family. I got selected to do creative arts in school, but then I gave it up and I did economics instead. So it was kind of trying to live in that box.
Do you know what's interesting for me? Because I'm coming from a specialist point of view from ADHD as my profession. I think it's harder to recognize ADHD thinking, this divergent, supernova, incredible creative thinking, when you're also good at the stuff that is not creative.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It wasn't like you're terrible at something. It was like, well, it works, so it must be working for me, because I wasn't terrible at these modules or these subjects. I didn't feel like there was anything different about me. But recently, when I've been given the ability to run wild, I've seen the difference.
Tell me about the difference.
When I'm not forced to follow the routine of the average person, I'm more hyper-focused. I'm enjoying life a lot. I cut out the bad habits in life. But when you're forced into that average life, you tend to find ways to cope with the world. Because I think the world is made for non-ADHD people. I think that's how the world was made. And ADHD people are just told to live in that world, that everybody gets a job and everybody wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, everybody goes to sleep at 9 o'clock, and that's what the normal world looks like. But ADHD people aren't like that. We can work more than 8 hours a day if we're doing something we're passionate about and it's engaging our mind and it's challenging enough, because ADHD people need that challenge.
Absolutely.
And we can forego the 5 a.m. wake up and 9 o'clock sleeping time if we're engaged.
And it's not detrimental to us.
No.
Whereas the typical world feels like that would be detrimental.
Yes. So I agree with you on that supernova thing. It feels like a supernova. When you've tapped into harnessing everything about your ADHD, it almost feels like the world has opened up. You're no longer forced into the box and the world is your oyster now.
Yes. Almost like you were trying to explode in this little box, but it was kept on being contained. So you didn't lose that explosive supernova-ness about you. You just contained it. And you kept. So I'm interested. They talk about masking, and masking being specifically girls, specifically young girls. And the narrative is that masking is a negative thing, that it's about young girls being able to cope and pretending in order to cope in an environment, rather than being authentic and treating themselves or treating it. So I have an interesting view on masking. I think girls are more versatile, and we are able to change ourselves in order to be accommodating. And I think there's a thing with, women in this sort of the role we play in society. There's that definite element, but also we as women are more accommodating. That's how we can be mothers and nurturers and all those things. So I don't know that it is masking in a negative way. It's just an ability you had to be a supernova, but stay in the box because you were still good at accounting. In my world, the kids that come to me in my school, they're not good at accounting. So it gets picked up more readily because there's other failures rather than the ADHD. So for me, you're a high-performing ADHD rather than a low-performing ADHD, which possibly I'm thinking of other. So one of the reasons I'm talking to you is because you can be a role model.
Okay.
So this is why I'm kind of going down this road. These are my thoughts and words, not yours. But I'm thinking if you're smart and you're capable and you have ADHD or any other diagnosis like autism, the masking happens automatically because you can cope in any situation. So you tend to go down the road of the path you think is designed for you. And then something changed for you. Was it your GP saying you might have ADHD? What was the catalyst for the change?
So I don't know how to say this. So my GP put me on medication before I was diagnosed, and it was because I was in high pressure situations. And it was in high pressure situations where I was engaged. I was trying to fit into the normal box, and the medication worked, and I didn't have terrible side effects. And then she was like, I think we should dig a bit deeper into this because you're not having, you don't feel like you're I don't know how most people would feel on medication if they don't have ADHD, but she was like, you're not you don't look like you're having any negative effects. It looks like it's actually helping you a lot.
Yes.
And because it was helping a lot, she's like, I think we should explore this further. And that's where it went. And then I did my research, right? She encouraged me, go do your research. The more and more I did research, I realized, yeah, I probably have ADHD. And coming back to that masking, I think you're absolutely right. Women do mask a lot because society tells us that women are good at multitasking, but it's an ADHD thing. We can jump into 5 different conversations at the same time.
And we want to jump into 5.
Yes.
Because it lights us up.
Yes. And society tells us, no, but that's just how women are. Women are just good at multitasking.
Right.
But it's an ADHD thing. Also,
Interesting.
shopping. Everybody says, oh, women love shopping. But it's a coping mechanism because it gives you that rush of dopamine. Every time you shop, it gives you that rush of dopamine.
It's self-medication.
It is self-medication.
But you said when we spoke first that your shopping stopped when you did something slightly different.
Yes. So when I pursued my passion, I noticed that my bad habits, including shopping, stopped because the shopping was bad.
Okay.
Right? It tends to become an addiction because it's that rush of dopamine. And then every time you're feeling low, you need that rush of dopamine. But when I was getting the steady flow of dopamine through pursuing things that I actually wanted to pursue, the bad habits stopped.
And you didn't have to use self-control to stop the bad habits. They just weren't there anymore.
They just weren't there because you didn't need the self-medication anymore. When you're doing something you're passionate about that's engaging your brain all the right ways and you're not trying to fit in a box, there's none of the bad habits. The ADHD kind of finds a home.
That's a good way to put it.
Instead of the ADHD acting out in all these symptomatic ways, it finds a home.
That's an incredible way to put it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I feel like it's a bit of a mic drop moment there. So let me just breathe that in.
Yeah, because let's be honest, if you try to fit in in a world that wasn't made for you, your brain will act out. You will have that impulsivity. If you're in a world where people are pushing you for answers on the spot, that's terrible for people like us because we're impulsive, right? We're going to say yes to something, and then when the dopamine has left our bodies, we regret saying yes to it. So the impulsivity in a world that wasn't made for people like us really acts out. Does that make sense?
It does. And the opposite word, almost the positive word, because impulsivity has a negative connotation, but the strength of that is the power of action.
Yes.
And if you don't force me into a corner and you just let me be, the power of action is incredible because we get things done.
Yes.
And that could sit on that spectrum of impulsivity. But when pushed into a corner and forced to make a decision, it becomes like your superpower just splurts out and it should actually flow out.
Yes.
It comes out incorrectly almost.
So I've stopped responding to people on the spot and asked for people to maybe give me a day to make up my mind because I notice that my decisions do change after a few hours. So that's the bad part of the impulsivity when you're in a normal world and it's pushing you against the wall for an answer. That's the bad part. But when you focus that impulsivity in the right way, like, I don't know, speaking to people that you never thought you could speak to, having audacity, that impulsivity is the best thing you could have.
It's bravery.
It's bravery. So it's all about how you focus that energy. And that goes for any of the symptoms. If you use it in a way that's, I don't know what's the word, but you need to harness it. It's energy. You can't harness the supernova in a box. Just let it run wild and focus it towards positive things.
And you need to know what it is. You need to know the supernova is a supernova.
Yeah.
It's not a nebula or a black hole. A black hole is fine. Just know that it is that.
Yeah.
And you are who you are. And when the more you live with it, my experience is the more you not live with it in terms of it's being a negative. It sounds awful. Let me rather say it differently. The more you lean into who you are, the more you get to know who you are, and then you set boundaries around that. That's not no negative boundaries. They're just, this is the way I think. I do a thing when I meet people and I talk about WhatsApp. I always say, this is how I use WhatsApp. Even if I blue tick you and I'm not responding to you, it means I'm thinking about it.
Yes.
Give me a moment. When I've really thought about it, you can get a proper answer. I hate phone calls because phone calls force me to make answers straight away. And then I just say whatever comes out of my mouth. And you're right, at the end of it, you're like, what did I agree to? No. Which is interesting because I was called a procrastinator and lazy for a lot of my childhood. No, I ruminate on things. It sticks with me. The question sticks with me for a while. So I look like I'm doing nothing. But when I've got the answer, it's done. You can't stop me. And then I look impulsive. No, I've been thinking about it for a month. Well, you didn't tell me you were thinking about it. Well, did I have to tell you I was thinking about it?
Yeah.
That's my version. I think everybody's got it's a spectrum.
It is a spectrum.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's such a shame that we're told the world should be like this because the world was created by people who are neurodivergent. A lot of famous people, a lot of successful entrepreneurs are neurodivergent, and we're told to live in this four walls, and we just can't. Our world doesn't exist in four walls, and beautiful things happen if you allow us to be.
Yes. So then the question that has to come up right now is, what was it like growing up in an Indian family? Because culturally, we all have different ideas on parenting and expectations, and it's all different. And I think it's an important thing to talk about.
So I will tell you my background, but I think something that really pops into my head right now is that I have sensory overload. And that's something I only came to terms with not so long ago. I hate washing dishes, but that's because it feels like a sensory overload, right? And I come from an Indian family where you're told that you have to wash dishes, and when you go to someone's house, offer to wash the dishes. And to me, it feels like you're submerging my head underwater. It feels like yuck, I can't breathe.
But you had to do it anyway?
I had to, but it felt like, you know how some people say there's like ants crawling on them? For me, it felt like there were things underneath my nails, my fingernails. It was too much for me. And that's a part that's been really sticking with me recently, that you get all these norms that you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this, but like this sensory overload.
And that's a real thing.
That's a real thing. And so when my brother was younger, my brother is 7 years younger than me. When he was younger, he was actually diagnosed with ADHD. And, you know, coming from an Indian family, or maybe it was just my mom, I don't know. She was adverse to the idea of medication or acknowledging ADHD. And I didn't know it was genetic back then. I didn't know that if someone has ADHD, you probably have ADHD as well. And when I was diagnosed, when I came to the realization that I had ADHD, I made that connection that, hold on, my brother was told something quite similar a couple of years ago, and I never made that connection. So I come from a background where, you know, medication is discouraged, that ADHD is just one of those things. Like, people don't actually recognize ADHD.
It's like it's nonsense.
They recognize autism, but they don't recognize ADHD, because I think if you don't know the symptoms, you can't see ADHD. Whereas autism, you can see autism.
Fair enough.
And even though they fall under one umbrella, one is recognized more than the other.
So it's almost like a hidden challenge.
It is. And if you don't come from a family that recognizes the symptoms, it gets overlooked.
And then you don't get help.
Yes. So I have a cousin and a nephew. Both are small, both have autism. And maybe it's the modern world that we're living in, but it's recognized more. I think like there was a time back in the day when people were just called special, right?
A blanket term.
Yeah, just special. And I'm like, hold on. Like, have you watched like Love on the Spectrum? People have companies.
Yes.
People are running successful companies and they have autism.
Yes.
When you research successful people who have ADHD, you realize successful people have ADHD. There are autistic people who are successful. It's not this special, you're in a special classroom. It doesn't exist.
And it's not a disorder.
It's not a disorder. It's a superpower. If you know how to focus that energy, it's miraculous, the things you can accomplish. I do 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzles for fun. Know how to harness the energy. People like me don't want to be put in front of a TV in our spare time. We want our brains to be engaged. We want to be stimulated.
Yes, and that goes back to what you were saying earlier, is that we don't want the 9-to-5 job because we don't want to turn our brains off at 5. No. Because we want our brains to be alive and awake and doing things. It's a very different way of thinking. I'm interested, what would you want, sitting here now, as an adult? If a mom or dad is listening to this and they've got a daughter that's potentially showing some of these signs, what would you want those parents to know?
I would tell them that you've got a gift on your hand, hey? If you're able to understand your child, because I think there's this understanding role that the parent has to play. Understand your child, understand their symptoms, and know how to harness it, because it's a gift. Don't consider them like different. Don't say they're different. I think there's a lot of ADHD people in this world. They're not different. It's just there's more than one type of person. And that child can go on to become a successful doctor, can go on to become a successful entrepreneur, go on to create the next big tech company or AI company. If you accommodate them, because the world is not made for them. So accommodate them, understand them, and work with them. I think it would be really nice to work with your children. You know, our brains don't switch off at a certain time. Sometimes you can work till 1 a.m. and telling your child he's to go to bed at a certain time and wake up at a certain time doesn't always work. Because we have our brilliant ideas in the worst of hours.
That's so true. That's so true.
So don't force them into a box. Don't.
You said a word about knowing your child and hearing them. I think to expand a little bit on that, we only know a person when we really, truly sit down and decide we're going to know who's in front of us, not who we think is in front of us. And that can be tough for parents, especially when the world is telling the parent that something's wrong with their child. But rather to lean into the joy and the beauty of who their kid is, because that for me is the starting point of, and now what? What should bedtime be that time? If he's playing outside and going crazy, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah.
And trying to really speak the language of your child.
Yeah. That's something, hey? It depends on the age of the child as well. Also, don't have expectations from them. Like, you had a child. I know a lot of parents, some parents, they have children and then they expect them and groom them to become certain adults. Don't do that. Don't do that. You've got this unique child on your hands. Don't do that. Allow them the freedom to be
Who they are.
Who they are. Schools nowadays give children homework and they're forced to do homework after their full day at school. Especially, like, imagine a neurodivergent child, like, being forced to do schoolwork the whole day in something they don't enjoy and then doing homework in something they don't enjoy. Do you know how draining that is?
Very true.
So don't have expectations. And I know that's hard in today's world.
Especially with the pressure. You've got to pass the term. You've got to pass the grade. You've got to pass the phase in school. Get into university. Lots of pressure for that.
But that's what I was talking about when I said the world wasn't made for neurodivergent thinkers. Imagine a world where you only had to pursue things you're interested in. Imagine a world or a school where you didn't have to do every single forced module. And if you were a great mathematician, they harnessed it. If you were a great dancer, they harnessed it. Mm-hmm. If you were great at something, they saw that potential in you and harnessed it instead of forcing you to go to maths between 8 to 9, English at this time. I get that it's important. But I think...
Because you need structure and discipline.
You do need structure and discipline. And I that children are great at and want to be great at.
That lights them up.
Yes.
Rather than dims them down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
imagine that.
Yes, do your English subjects and your math subjects, but not like...
also do.
Yeah. Also concentrate and focus on things children are interested in and engaged in.
An ADHD brain, when they find something they are passionate about, you can't stop them from doing work around it. So that's what we find. When a kid is passionate about, we've got a little kid who's passionate about tornadoes. When we're talking about tornadoes and weather systems, we cannot stop him from learning. When we talk about something else, we can't get him to learn. So that's where the system needs to be different.
I was the child who was the did you know kind of child. I had a lot of useless information in my brain, and I was always going around telling people useless facts.
You know, that's such an interesting thing. I want to stop on that just for 2 seconds, because I read a note. My mom had passed away about 10 years ago, and I came across my baby book. And she wrote there, I think I was 6 months old, sitting in the back seat in the car seat, and she said, she has such bright eyes and looks around at everything. I don't remember being that at school. So as an adult looking back on that and knowing where I am now, I think I had such bright eyes and looked around at everything. And then what happened? Okay, we're going back. We're going back to it now. So I think that's my own story into what you're saying as well, is these children who have got these heavy diagnoses that seem like they are a sentence in some way, are actually not. It's a light ready to shine. Just let it.
So I have lots of books. I can't finish a single book. I want to read them, but the way books are structured out is so boring. So I read the heading and I try to get the gist of it.
So I have over 2,000 books. And somebody asked me about 2 years ago, yeah, but how many of them have you read? So I had a thought about, what do I define as reading? So my mom would have defined, she was a teacher, my mom would have defined reading as we started word one and we finished at the last word. No, I start my books from the back. I flip through them back. I want to know where you were going with this. And then, okay, now where are you coming from? I read all over the place. I read what interests me. There's at least 2 books. I've only read the first chapter. I can't get past them. And I've realized, then that's all I need. And then can I say this book has been read? In my definition, yes. Other books I've read 5 times, cover to cover. So I think we need to let go of what the definition of success is, what I've read this book is. Let go of the traditional definition, make your own definition, because then you find success. Because I bet you if you have that way of thinking about reading, go through all your books, you've read them all.
I also think that we should change how books are written, because have you noticed in Instagram posts, there are Instagram posts that has informative knowledge, but you scroll past because the sentences are just bland and it looks like a lot of reading. But there's also Instagram posts that have a word on the top and a word at the bottom and like little words in between and a lot of white space. And those are the posts you read fully and you grasp the information. So I think we should also look.
That suits the ADHD brain.
Yeah, because you give me 5 sentences and I'm going to be like, let me read the first line. But give me a post where my brain is going to the top right corner and at the bottom left corner, I'm reading that post.
But also the ADHD brain gets it very fast.
Yes.
You don't need to give me a whole paragraph. Give me 1 or 2 words and I'm there.
Yes.
That's why we interrupt each other. Because the beginning of the sentence, I've got it. Now we need to jump and move around. And your neurotypicals are going, oh, she's so rude because she's interrupting me. I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I was talking to her husband. He's definitely ADHD. And of course, I think I am. And she's not. And we just having this conversation. She stops us and she goes, what are you guys doing? Why do you keep interrupting each other? And he turns to her and goes, but this is the way conversations happen. But for her, not a chance. But him and I, an hour later, and she couldn't follow it because we kept interrupting each other. But because I got it, and then he got it, and then we built this beautiful conversation. Do you have the same sort of conversation?
Yes, we had our conversation earlier this week, and it must have looked like chaos to an outsider, but we were engaged. we were having 5 different conversations at the same time, and it was the most amazing conversation. There's a lot of jumping here, jumping there, grasping this, grasping that. And that's how our brains work. And it's amazing when you find someone who can follow that kind of conversation.
I think we were talking about, I know I'm frustrated when people in WhatsApp have to pin a message to reply, and I'm thinking, do you not think I can remember from 2 messages ago what you said? So it is for sure a superpower.
It is.
I think we've got to be careful not to listen to the typical world that historically wants to shut us down because we don't fit in with the typical world. Typical world is fine. It's structured. It makes the world work. I just don't want to be measured against it.
Yeah. So the typical world tells us don't interrupt someone when they're talking. But when you and I are talking, both of us having ADHD, right? I'll hear a certain word in your sentence and I'll be like, I need to respond to that. And then the conversation takes a turn for the better.
Yes.
And that's how we work. We hear a word and we're like, hold on, that's something.
We build.
Yes, we build. Our conversations build. There's no like structured flow where we're reading 1 sentence, 2 sentence, 3 sentence. We're building off each other at all times. That's how our conversations go. You'll hear something that I say and you'll be like, hang on, let me respond to that. And I'll hear something you say and I'll be, hang on, let me respond to that. And it's the most phenomenal conversation we have.
Now imagine a classroom with children where that's allowed.
The world would change. The world would change for the better. Imagine a classroom where children were allowed to build off each other.
Exactly.
Because that's how any neurodivergent conversation goes. We're always building. And that's why you put 2 neurodivergent people in a room, you're going to get great ideas. You're going to get ideas that most people never thought of having.
Because the box doesn't exist when you're talking to each other.
Yeah.